My roommate Dean had a habit of leaving his phone face up on the kitchen counter, and that's how I knew 3 days before winter break that he'd told his mother he wasn't coming home for Christmas. I wasn't snooping, I was making toast. The message was just sitting there in his family group chat, lit up on the screen like it wanted to be read. Gonna stay in the city this year, work's crazy, don't worry about me. 6 words of a lie because Dean didn't have work. Dean had 2 weeks off from the hospital where he did his residency, and he'd been counting down to those 2 weeks since October. I didn't say anything. I ate my toast and went to my room and told myself it wasn't my business. It became my business 4 hours later when he knocked on my door holding 2 mugs of the cheap hot chocolate we kept in the cabinet for emergencies and asked if I was busy. I wasn't. I was reorganizing a sock drawer, which is a thing you do when your life feels a little too quiet and you need your hands occupied. I said no, come in, and he sat on the end of my bed the way he always did, like it was his bed too, which after 2 years of living together it kind of was. Can I ask you something weird? He said. You can ask me something weird. If I asked you not to go home for Christmas, would you think that was insane? I looked at him for a second too long before I answered because the question didn't match the boy asking it. Dean was the guy who cried a little every single year in the group chat when his mom sent pictures of the tree going up. Dean had a stocking with his childhood nickname stitched on it that he mentioned unprompted at least twice a semester. Dean was not a guy who skipped Christmas. I'd think something happened, I said. Did something happen? He looked down into his mug like the hot chocolate had an answer written on the surface of it. Not exactly. I don't want to go this year, and I don't want to be alone in this apartment while everyone I know is somewhere with people who love them, and I know that's a lot to ask, but you're already not going home either, so. That part was true. My family and I had an arrangement that year that we didn't talk about out loud, an unofficial ceasefire that meant nobody had to sit at a table together pretending things were fine. I told Dean I had a lot of work over break. He hadn't pushed. I think he'd known it was a lie the same way I now knew he was. Okay, I said, yeah, I'll stay. He exhaled like he'd been holding it since October too, and he smiled at me in a way I felt in my chest for reasons I wasn't ready to look at directly. And he said thanks, man, like it was nothing, like he hadn't just asked me to rearrange my entire holiday around him without giving me a single real reason why. I didn't ask again that night. I told myself I'd get it out of him eventually. I did not expect that the person who would tell me the real reason was his mother 4 days later over the phone in a conversation I was never supposed to be part of. Dean and I had lived together since the start of grad school, paired up by a roommate matching questionnaire that asked things like, "Are you a morning person?" and completely failed to ask the one question that mattered, which was, "Are you going to fall in love with the person you get matched with?" I hadn't expected to. For the first 6 months, he was just a guy who left dishes in the sink and sang badly in the shower and once tried to convince me that ranch dressing belonged on pizza, and I disagreed with him loudly, and that was the whole relationship. Roommates, friendly, simple. It stopped being simple somewhere around the night his dog died back home, and he sat in the hallway outside the bathroom at 2 in the morning because he didn't want to wake me. And I found him there anyway because I'd gotten up for water. And I sat down next to him on the floor in my socks and didn't say anything smart, just stayed. He cried for 20 minutes with his head against my shoulder and apologized for it 4 separate times, and I told him 4 separate times he didn't need to apologize to me ever for anything real. Somewhere in that hallway is where it started, if I'm being honest about it. Not a dramatic moment. Just a small one that reorganized something inside me quietly, the way a single piece moving on a chessboard changes the whole shape of the game even if nobody notices yet. I never told him. He was straight, genuinely, uncomplicatedly straight, the kind of straight where he talked about women the way other people talk about weather, casually, constantly, without a flicker of anything else underneath it. He dated a girl named Priya for 8 months of the 2 years I'd known him. He talked about wanting kids someday, a yard, a dog that wouldn't die on him again too soon. There was no universe I could see where wanting him wasn't going to end in me quietly filing it away and moving on with my life. So that's what I did. I filed it away. I got good at it. I got so good at it that most days I forgot I was doing it at all. Which is why the Christmas thing threw me. Because agreeing to stay meant 2 weeks in a small apartment with him, no buffer of classes or work shifts or other people, just us and a fake little tree we'd bought together from a hardware store because neither of us wanted to admit we cared enough to get a real one. The first few days were fine. Good even. We watched terrible holiday movies and made fun of them. We cooked badly together and ate it anyway. There was a night we stayed up until 4 in the morning building a blanket fort in the living room because Dean claimed he'd never had one as a kid, which I didn't believe until I saw his face when it was finished, genuinely lit up, genuinely delighted like I'd given him something rare. "You're a lot more fun than I expected for someone who alphabetizes his spice rack," he said, lying on his back inside the fort, staring up at the sheet ceiling. "You've known me for 2 years. I know I keep being surprised by you anyway." I didn't know what to do with a sentence like that, so I made a joke instead, and the moment passed and I told myself that was fine, that was the correct outcome. Moments like that were supposed to pass. The phone call happened on the fifth night. Dean had gone to take a shower, left his phone charging on the kitchen counter again, same spot as always, and it rang loud enough that I heard it from the couch. I saw the contact name Mom Dean's heart emoji and I almost let it ring out. But it kept ringing twice, 3 times, and there was a small stupid part of me that worried it might be an emergency, so I picked it up, meaning only to say, "He's in the shower, I'll have him call you back." "Dean, honey, finally," she said before I could get a word in, her voice already moving fast, already emotional in a way that made my stomach drop a little. "Hi, this is actually his roommate. He's in the shower, I can." "Oh," a pause, then gentler, "you're the roommate, the one he's staying with instead of coming home." "Yeah, sorry, I can grab him, or—" "No, no, stay on, actually, can I ask you something? I don't want this to be weird." Everything about that sentence promised it was going to be weird. "Sure," I said, because what else do you say? "Is he doing okay, really okay? Because I know what he told us about work and I know that's not true, work isn't crazy. I called the hospital and asked and they said residents get their scheduled leave same as anyone. I'm not trying to trap him, he's never missed a Christmas, not once. And I keep thinking about what his father said before he left and I'm scared that's what this is about, and I don't know how to ask him without making it worse." My whole body went very still. "What his father said," I repeated, careful, not agreeing to know anything, just giving her room to keep talking. She exhaled the way people do right before they say something they've been carrying alone for a while. "Last time Dean came home, back in October, for his cousin's engagement party, his father made some comment about Dean not having a girlfriend anymore, teasing him about it in front of everyone the way he does, and then said something like, 'As long as you're not turning into one of those guys,' and laughed like it was a joke, and Dean laughed too, but I saw his face before he laughed. I've known that boy's face since the day he was born. That wasn't a laughing face." I stood in our kitchen holding my roommate's phone against my ear, hearing his mother describe a wound I recognized completely from the inside, and I didn't say anything for a second too long. "I don't know if that's— I don't want to speak for him," I finally managed. "I really don't know what's going on with him and his dad, but he's okay here, I promise you he's okay here." "You're being kind," she said, "and I can hear that you're being careful, and I appreciate both those things. Can I just say one more thing and then I'll let you go?" "Yeah. Whoever he is, whatever's going on with him, if you're the reason my son felt safe enough to skip a holiday he loves instead of sitting across from his father pretending to be something he's not, then you're not just his roommate to me. You understand? I don't know your name yet, but I already know that." I heard the bathroom door open down the hall. "He's out of the shower," I said, my voice doing something strange and thick that I hated. "I'll have him call you back tonight, okay? I promise." "Okay, sweetheart, thank you." I hung up right as Dean walked into the kitchen in sweatpants, towel around his neck, hair dripping, and froze when he saw me holding his phone. "Your mom called," I said. "I picked it up because it kept ringing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "What did she say?" Not a question, a demand, quiet and fast, his whole posture changing in the space of a second, shoulders up, jaw tight. "She asked if you were okay," I said carefully. "She said she knew the work thing wasn't true. She mentioned your dad, something he said in October at your cousin's party." Dean's face did something complicated, anger and relief and fear all arriving at once and fighting for space, and then he sat down hard on one of our kitchen chairs like his legs had stopped being reliable. "She wasn't supposed to say that to you," he said to the floor. "She didn't say it like it was a secret, she said it like she was scared of you." I sat down across from him. "Dean, what did he say to you?" He was quiet long enough that I thought he wasn't going to answer, and I was fully prepared to let it go, to say never mind, forget I asked. I understood better than almost anyone what it cost to say certain sentences out loud for the first time. He made a joke, Dean said finally, still not looking up, about me not having a girlfriend and then this thing about not turning into one of those guys, and everyone laughed and I laughed, because that's what you do, right? You laugh so nobody looks too close. He rubbed both hands over his face. And the messed up part is he doesn't even know he was joking, he doesn't actually know anything. He just happened to be right, and I've never been more scared in my life, and I sat there laughing at my own joke about myself like an idiot. The kitchen went very quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming, our fake little tree blinking cheap-colored light against the wall. "You're bi," I said, not a question, just giving him a word to land on if he wanted it. "I don't know what I am, honestly. I know I've never felt about a girl the way I've started feeling about." He stopped himself so fast it was almost violent, like he'd bitten down on the end of the sentence before it could finish leaving his mouth. "I didn't push, I have never in my life wanted so badly to push and done so little of it." "Anyway," he said, standing up too quickly, wiping his palms on his sweatpants like the conversation had left something on them. "That's why I didn't want to go home." Sitting across from him for 2 weeks, hearing him make that joke again, maybe not laughing it off as clean the second time. "I couldn't do it. I'm sorry I didn't tell you the real reason. I wasn't ready to say it to anyone yet, and then I said it to you by accident in our kitchen at 10 at night, so." A short, humorless laugh. "There it is, I guess." "You don't have to apologize for the timing," I said. "You don't have to apologize for any of this." He looked at me then, really looked, in a way he hadn't quite looked at before, like he was checking my face for something and trying not to be obvious about it. "You're not freaked out," he said. "Why would I be freaked out?" "I don't know, people are weird about it sometimes, even good people, even people you don't expect." I could have told him right then. It was sitting right there in my mouth, a whole confession shaped and ready. I'm not freaked out because I've known exactly what that fear tastes like since I was 15 years old, because I've sat through those jokes at my own family's table too, because I've spent 2 years living 6 feet from you every single day, carefully not saying something that would blow up the only good, uncomplicated thing in my life. All of it was right there. "I didn't say it," I said. "You should call your mom back, she's worried." He nodded slowly, still watching me with that new, careful attention, and went to his room to make the call, and I sat alone in our kitchen for a long time after, staring at the blinking tree, wondering if I'd just missed the only door that was ever going to open. He didn't tell me what he and his mom talked about that night, and I didn't ask. But something shifted in the days after. He started sitting closer on the couch, not dramatically, just an inch, then two. Small enough that I could have imagined it, except I noticed every single inch. He started finding reasons to touch my shoulder when he walked past, quick and casual, the kind of thing that used to mean nothing between us and now made my skin feel lit up for an hour afterward. He asked me questions he'd never asked before, not about my family exactly, but around the edges of it, careful testing. "You never really talk about going home," he said one afternoon, both of us on the floor with laptops open, half working, half not. Is that a whole thing or just a scheduling thing?" "It's a whole thing," I said. "Do you want to talk about it?" I closed my laptop slower than I needed to, buying time. "My dad found out about me my second year of college," I said. "Not from me, he went through my phone looking for something else and found a conversation I'd had with a guy I was seeing." He didn't yell. That was almost the worst part, honestly. I was braced for yelling, and instead he just got very quiet and very polite for about 6 months, and then he stopped being quiet and started being polite in the specific way you're polite to someone you've decided you don't understand anymore. We talk maybe 4 times a year. Holidays are logistics, not warmth. Dean didn't say anything right away. He reached over and put his hand flat on my knee, not romantic, just present, grounding, the way you'd steady a table that was wobbling. "I'm sorry," he said. I'm really sorry." "It's fine, it was a long time ago." "It doesn't sound fine, it sounds like something you've gotten good at saying is fine." I looked at him, surprised, because that was exactly it, exactly the thing nobody had named out loud before, and something about him seeing it that clearly made my throat go tight in a way I had to blink hard against. "Yeah," I admitted, "maybe." His hand was still on my knee, neither of us moved it. "For what it's worth," he said, quieter now, "my mom asked about you after that call. She asked a lot of questions, actually. What you were like, how long we'd been living together." A pause, careful, watching my face. "She asked if there was something going on between us." My heart did something violent and stupid in my chest. "What did you tell her?" "I told her I didn't know yet." He was still looking at me, and his hand still hadn't moved, and the space between us on the floor had somehow gotten smaller without either of us appearing to shift at all. Was that the wrong answer? No, I said, my voice barely working. That's not the wrong answer. Because I've been trying to figure out for like a week now if the thing I've been feeling is just gratitude or relief or whatever because you didn't run when I told you, or if it's something else. And I keep landing on something else. And it's scaring the hell out of me, honestly, because I've never felt this about a guy before and I don't fully know what to do with it. And I don't want to mess up the one good thing I have right now by getting it wrong. You're not going to mess it up, I said. You don't know that. I do, actually. Because I've felt this since a night about a year and a half ago when your dog died and you cried in the hallway and wouldn't let me leave, and I've been sitting on it every single day since, telling myself it was never going to go anywhere, and I got so good at telling myself that, I almost believed it. Dean stared at me like I'd knocked the air out of him. A year and a half, he repeated. A year and a half. You never said anything. You were straight, genuinely, completely straight as far as I knew. What was I supposed to say? He let out a breath that was half laugh, half something rower than that, and he moved his hand from my knee up to my jaw, gentle, like he wasn't sure he was allowed, like he was asking permission with the motion itself instead of words. I'm really glad you didn't say anything a year and a half ago, he said, because I don't think I was ready to hear it. I think I would have panicked and made it weird and ruined this before it had a chance to be anything. But I'm not scared of it right now. Is that insane? I feel like I should be more scared than I am. Maybe you've just spent enough time being scared of the wrong things, I said, that you ran out of fear for the right one. He laughed, surprised, and then he kissed me, not dramatic, not cinematic, a little clumsy actually, his nose bumping mine first, both of us adjusting, both of us smiling into it halfway through because it felt more like relief than romance, the specific relief of finally putting down something heavy you've been carrying so long you forgot it'd weight. We didn't say much after. We didn't need to. We sat on the floor with our laptops closed and our shoulders touching until the light outside went dark blue, and it felt less like a beginning and more like something that had already been happening quietly for a year and a half, finally being allowed to exist out loud. Christmas morning, we didn't do anything special, no fake tradition, no forced magic, just coffee and the ugly fake tree and Dean wearing the same ratty sweatpants he always wore. And it was somehow the best Christmas I'd had in 6 years, because nobody in the room was performing anything for anyone. His mom called at 10. He put it on speaker without asking me first, which told me something about where we'd landed without either of us saying it out loud. "Merry Christmas, baby," she said. "Tell your roommate Merry Christmas too." Dean looked at me, something soft and a little nervous crossing his face. "Actually, Mom," he said, "he's not just my roommate anymore." There was a pause on the line, not a bad one, the kind of pause that's just someone catching up to good news. "Well," she said, and I could hear her smiling through the phone, could hear it the way you can sometimes hear a smile in a voice before anything else gives it away. "I told him on the phone a few days ago that if he was the reason you felt safe enough to skip a holiday, he wasn't just your roommate to me either. Guess I called it before you two did." Dean laughed, surprised, glancing at me. "You told him that?" "I meant it too," she said. "Both of you, listen to me. Next Christmas you're coming home, both of you. I don't care what your father says or doesn't say, that's between me and him, but my door is open and it has room for family, and as far as I'm concerned that word just got bigger. You understand me?" I didn't say anything for a second because I hadn't expected to cry on Christmas morning over speakerphone in sweatpants. But there I was, doing exactly that, and Dean reached over without looking and laced his fingers through mine like it was the most natural motion in the world, like we'd been doing it for years instead of 5 days. "Yeah, I finally managed. We understand you." "Good," she said. "Now put the phone down and go enjoy your Christmas, both of you. I love you, Dean," and, a small pause, warm, deliberate, "I love you too, honey, whatever your name is, I'll get it out of him eventually." She hung up laughing, and Dean was laughing too, wiping at his own eyes with the back of his free hand, and I sat there in our tiny apartment with the cheap fake tree blinking, and a man I'd loved quietly for a year and a half now holding my hand out loud in front of his mother, and I thought about how strange it was that the family I'd lost quietly over 6 polite years had somehow found its way back to me through a phone call I was never supposed to answer. I still think about that sometimes, how close I came to just saying, "He's in the shower, I'll have him call you back," and hanging up, how one small choice to stay on the line changed the entire shape of what came after. Some doors only open once, and you don't always know you're standing in front of one until you're already through it, looking back at how easily you could have walked past.